Hey everyone, it's me, Kirk Mastin, here at Mastin Labs. It's a beautiful day outside, and I am excited to edit your non-wedding photos from the community. So often we edit a lot of wedding photos, but today we are going to be editing everything but wedding photos. So we've got a little bit of everything in our mixed bag from the community. Thank you so much for sending us so many wonderful photos. We really appreciate it. I'm going to be just sitting here for 1 second, seeing who is entering our room. I love to give a shout out to everyone who's joining us. We've got people from all over the world. And I wanted to make a quick announcement too, that after this live edit, we're going to be going directly to a Clubhouse or on the Clubhouse app. So if you own an iPhone, you're in the Clubhouse app, join us there. It's going to be something we're going to start doing often. And when you're there, follow me at Mastin Labs, or you can just type in my name, Kirk Mastin, on Clubhouse. Follow me, and we're going to have a ton of Mastin Labs events on Clubhouse today and going forward. So it's going to be pretty cool. All right, Wim. Okay, I know Wim Wenders, amazing director. So I think it's Wim or Vim, but thank you for joining us from Germany. And Wim, I hope that you are in Clubhouse. And the same with Peg Donahue. If you are in Clubhouse, that would be really cool. Yeah, so everyone joining us, we're just going to wait here like another 20 seconds maybe, and then we're going to jump right in with editing everything but the girl. Remember that band? Electronica? No? Am I dating myself here? Everything but wedding photography. Yeah, everything but the girl is actually pretty good. I mean, I listened to it not too long ago. It was on like KEXP. I was like, I can get down to this. This is good. All right, we got P.F. Bentley from Molokai. He's our Mastin Labs correspondent from Hawaii. We've got Alicia McIntyre from North Carolina. Hi. Okay, if you saw her comment, then you would see that that's really funny. But she is throwing out all the love, and I'm giving it right back to Alicia. So thank you for joining us. We've got Enrique Baserga from Brandenburg, Germany. Thank you for joining us. We got Joe D'Agostino. Good to see you here. And yeah, from New Jersey. Sweet. What's up? All right. All right, that looks good. So yeah, we've got some people in the room. Let me start over from the top here. I'm going to be editing non-wedding photos today with your choice of preset. If you have it in your file name, that's what I'm going to be using. Again, after this live edit, we're going to be on Clubhouse, where you can ask even more questions about what we did today or whatever you want. It's just going to be a hangout. So let's get started. All right, so our workflow, very simple, but it's very important you do it in this order. Apply the preset. This will just change all of the tones and colors over to the appropriate film. Then you want to adjust exposure, and then you want to adjust white balance and tint. It's really important you do that in that order. I had someone ask on Clubhouse why were the presets not working the way that she wanted them to, and it was because she was trying to do white balance and tint and exposure before applying the preset, and all films have kind of a native white balance and tint level, and you have to apply the preset first and then dial in your white balance. That's just the way it is when you are emulating film. If you scan Fuji 400H, it's going to have a very cool white balance. If you scan Portrait 400, it's going to be very warm. Ektar is going to be extremely warm, and that is just how the film renders in the scanner. So always apply the preset first. All right? Okay, cool. Man, we got a lot of people saying hi. Well, hi right back at you. Okay, let's get started. Look at this. Isn't this cool? I mean, I love wedding photography. Don't get me wrong. That was my bread and butter for 20 years. But I love seeing other things too, and so it's gonna be a blast working through these images that are not necessarily wedding photography. All right, so this is from, and by the way, if you have any questions while I'm going, I will answer questions here too, not just on Clubhouse, but here too. That's what we've been doing for like 200 episodes. So if you have a question, answer it. Casey will flag me down and I'll answer it right away. Whew. Okay, so Alberto Gabato, thank you for sending this in. Alberto requested Portrait 800. Great, good choice. It works really well with lighter skin tones. I think it'll work nicely in this light. There's a lot of contrast. It's hard to tell because it's raw, but I mean, if you just increase contrast a bit, this isn't a preset, but just increasing contrast, you can see that there's quite a big difference between light and shadow. And anything in any of the original packs, so like Portra Original Pack or the Fuji Original Pack, those are great for high contrast situations because they are low contrast films in general. So good choice, Alberto. Should look good. Okay, so 3-step workflow. We're going to apply the preset first. Then we're going to adjust exposure, temperature, and tint. So I'm going to bring down exposure just a little bit. She's kind of getting, her skin was kind of blowing out like a little bit too white up on her face. As far as temperature goes, I think it's a nice temperature. And then tint, just looking around, I'm usually looking for neutrals. So like this concrete floor, I know the color of a concrete floor like that. We have it downstairs in one of our studios. It looks a little green to me. And then looking back here on this wall, the wall looks pretty neutral. So, I mean, it could maybe use a tiny touch of magenta. So I'm going to go up like 1 or 2 points in magenta, right about to there. And that evens it out really nicely. Okay, so that's your basic 3-step edit. It's fairly subtle. It's nice. I am going to dive into some of the other tools just to kind of finish off this edit because it's a very interesting lighting situation, but it's kind of harsh. So I'm going to add All Soft. And what All Soft does, as I'm going to roll over it a few times so you can see, is that it brings out detail in the highlights and the shadows. If I was to use Highlight Soft, it would just bring back detail in the highlights. And if I was to use Shadow Soft, it would just bring back detail in the shadows. I think for this one, I either want All Soft, so I'm kind of increasing the dynamic range a little bit across the image, or at the very least, I want Highlight Soft. Depends on kind of the mood you want. If you want kind of a darker, moodier look, then just Highlight Soft, let the shadows be dark. And if you want to kind of just bring up everything at once, or just kind of even out the exposure, you would do All Soft. And these tools actually come from the Fuji Frontier SP3000 scanner that everything is made from. And I think they're super useful. They're useful for film photographers, and they happen to be very useful for digital photographers. And as far as I know, we're the only people who are bringing that kind of tool over to Lightroom, and people love it. So I'm going to go with actually Highlight Soft and keep it moody. And there is your edit. Oh yeah, we could use another tool that we've just added, which is the Auto Transform tool. So this is looking for straight lines in the image, and we'll try to correct any kind of distortion. Let's see if it'll work on this one. Yeah, okay, it's not a huge change, but as I roll over it, you can see that the image gets straighter and a little bit, more correct and vertically correct. And that's kind of a nice last little touch. All right, Alberto. Thank you for that image. It is very cool. Again, if you have any questions, please ask them and I will get to as many as possible. Okay, so this is by Sam Fink. This is a cool image. I really love it. You are asking for Portrait 400 push 2 stops, so you want kind of a dark, moody vibe. I think that'll work really nicely on this. When I saw this image, my first thought was black and white. Because it's so graphic. You've got all these squares and this line and these kind of really nice light and dark colors, especially his shearling coat. But I'm going to do, I think Portrait 400 push 2 stops is going to look good. So let's do that. Yeah, that's flipping dynamite. Okay, well, okay, that's it. I mean, it looks really good. I don't see, I'll do my 3 steps, but I mean, this looks pretty dope as it is. Okay, so exposure-wise, he's a little bit hot right here on his face. It's a little bit bright, so I might bring it down just a tiny bit. And then temperature and tint, the neutrals look good. Temperature looks good. Maybe warmer, maybe just a tiny bit warmer. I moved it up just, yeah, just the tiniest bit warmer. That's it. And that is before and after. It just looks really good and still looks very natural. Okay, I'm gonna add a few little fun things. I'm gonna add 35 millimeter grain. I think that'll look really nice on it. So you can see the little bit of grain here, like in the shadows and on his face. It's just very subtle. And then what I'm also gonna do, yeah, let's do auto transform. Okay. I think on this one it's actually not making it better. I'm gonna leave it how it is. And I guess the very last thing I'm gonna do is something you've seen in a million other videos, but I like to crop vertical 35 millimeter frames. I like to crop them 4:3. I just think that they're just too tall otherwise. And again, it's like, I might sound like a broken record, but this is the shape of a magazine cover, and it feels proportionally more powerful and correct to chop that height off of the vertical frame. I think it always looks better. One tiny thing that's bugging me is this little bit of a white stripe down here. So I'm just gonna grab this little spot tool. Whoa, it's not the view I would like. Whatever. Okay, I'm just gonna get this. We are in kind of a dust blemish mode. That is fine, but that should take care of it. All right, we got that out of there. So that last little blemish gone, and that's it. So there is a mode inside of Lightroom which I never use. How do you get to it again?
So you hit Q to do the blemish thing, and then A is your tool to bring that up.
So Casey just informed me, if you hit A, you can go to this.
Q and then A.
Yeah, Q and then A. You can go to this. It's basically for like finding dust on negatives. I've never really used it, but there you go, a little bonus tip. But I usually get rid of blemishes this way. Yes, we run it all live here. But this is a great image. I'm gonna quickly make a duplicate of it and do black and white because I just think it would just be so stunning. I'm gonna go to the Fujicolor Everyday Pack, and I'm gonna use Acros. Yes. Yes. Looks so good. I picked Acros. So the reason I picked Acros is that it doesn't have a huge, like, slap your face amount of contrast. What it does is it brings almost, I don't know, for lack of a better word, it brings like the entire gamma down, like all the midtones down. It's a very good, like, low key black and white look. And I thought it would just do really nicely on this image that's already popping pretty hard with that kind of harder light, and it looks really good. So I don't know, it looks like a movie poster, but I love both. So yeah, cool image, Sam. Thanks for sending it in. All right, Wim, here we go. Wim Jansen, you choose. Okay, cool. Awesome. I love it. This is cool. This is like little behind the scenes photojournalism. It's great. I worked as a cook for a while, so I totally get this world. So you choose, huh? I think Fujicolor Everyday, actually the one I have open, would be pretty good. These are good kind of all-around looks for real life, especially in more of a urban setting. So let's do Superior 400. And so now I need to do, so I did the preset, step 1. Step 2 is going to be exposure, and then step 3 is going to be white balance and tint. So exposure wise, I definitely think this could be brought down. And bring it down just a little bit. I keep looking at his cheek. It's really bright right here, but I think that's going to resolve itself when I fix the white balance. So I've adjusted exposure. Now I'm going to cool it down just a little bit. And then as far as like green or red, or I mean magenta or green, I don't know, this is tricky. We've got a different light coming up on him from whatever light is on the back of these lights. So we've got a very cool, like probably fluorescent lighting from behind, and then in front we've got, flame, maybe. I'm not sure. But I think, yeah, this is a little bit extreme. I might have to play with this a bit. We're gonna do all soft. See if we can tame that cheek reflection thing he's got going there, and cool it down more. Boy, this is a tricky one, Wim. So that's about as far as I can get with Superia, and it's still a little bit too much for me. So I'm gonna go down the ladder of vibrancy to something a little more neutral. So let's see, C200, that works a little bit better. So we're gonna do C200 and all soft. Let's just do highlight soft. I like the darker shadows. There we go. And I'm actually going to bring down the exposure again. Right about there. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got our basic 3-step edit with C200. I'm going to add 35 millimeter grain. And I don't want the whole image to go cooler. So I dig the tones in the lights in the metal. It looks really cool. His skin is still a little bit too much for me, like the difference between the warm and the cool tones. But we can use orange reduction, which is kind of built for this, to kind of take the edge off of skin that's getting too orange. So if he was in a single light situation, so right now it's a mixed light situation. This is like fluorescent plus fire, I guess. I don't know, whatever is underneath his face, maybe a heat lamp. Since it's mixed, you have to kind of figure out a middle ground between the two. If it was all fluorescent, like the entire image, you wouldn't have to use anything like orange reduction. But in this case, I don't want to make anything else cooler, just his skin. So I'm just going to go over on the orange reduction here, and I'll go a few times so you can see it. Okay, so we're zoomed way in. So here is orange reduction on, and orange reduction, or no orange reduction. So there. And that looks really good to me. And there you go. So that's one. I'm going to do one more. We're going to do a black and white. I can't tell, Wim, if you meant you choose two or if it's just you choose, and this was the second file you sent, but I'll give you two looks just in case. I'm going to go to the Adventure Every Day and go to Tri-X. Tri-X is nice and clean, super versatile. I'm going to just bring down the exposure just a little bit. And right about there. And that looks pretty good too. Let's do highlight soft. No, I'm going to keep it. I like it. All right, so there are two different looks depending on what you want. This is C200 with orange reduction. And this is Tri-X, just Tri-X from Adventure Every Day. Both look really good. So thank you, Wim, for sending that in. Yeah, very, very cool. All right, this is very nicely lit. This is by Kayla Hill. You've got her in open shade, meaning okay, let me break it down for you. This is like when I was at Brooks Institute a million years ago, if anyone even remembers what that is. We did like a week long where we did lighting modification. And this reminds me of one of our assignments where you'd have a little piece of mirror and then like a silk, and you would put the silk over your model and diffuse the light. So you'd have this kind of open shade. And then you would take this little mirror, you'd have your friend hold it, and they would bounce like sunlight back onto the side of their head to make like a rim light. It reminds me exactly of this. And that's like a very classic, easy to work with lighting situation. So it looks really good. Anyway, thank you, Kayla. Kayla asked for Fuji 400H, classic, that'll look great, versus my choice, okay? Let's start with yours. One reason it's good to start with Fuji 400H is that Fuji 400H is amazing. But if you like started with Ektar and then went to Fuji 400H, you would think that Fuji 400H was broken because they're so different. But you can go the other way pretty easily. So here's Fuji 400H. It's got that nice kind of light pastel, low contrast, low saturation look. I'm going to warm it up just a tiny bit. And overall, she looks a little bit green. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of magenta. Not a lot though. Maybe a little bit more warmth. I'm gonna rock this slider back and forth, and you can kind of hone in on when it looks right. I don't want this like asphalt or pavement or whatever to start to get like really warm. Then I know I've gone too far. Like if I go up to like here, it starts to turn yellow. And Fuji 400H, it's one of our most popular looks of all time. But the preset and the film do not like to be warm. That is not where Fuji 400H or 160 NS or even 800Z is supposed to live. So this is too warm. It's going to bring it down until that concrete is not orange or yellow. So like right there is perfect. So that's before and after the Fuji 400H. It looks good, and again, it's like our most popular look for weddings, at least. Let's do lens correction real quick, because this was shot wide open. Okay, huge difference. What the heck is lens correction, you may ask? It is a tool that removes the vignetting and distortion of a lens when you shoot it wide open. I could tell that this was wide open by how shallow the depth of field is, so how blurry it is behind her. And then I can look over here and see it was shot at 1.8. So lens correction is going to have a huge effect on this image. In fact, it's such a huge effect that it's almost too much. I would have to bring down the exposure if I wanted to use it, but it evens out the lighting across the frame. In fact, yeah, I think that looks good too. Let me make a virtual copy, and then I'll go to lens correction. I'll go back a few steps here before we did lens correction. So there's the lens correction off, on. Come on, render. And you can decide which one you like more, but this really is a good example of what happens when you use lens correction. It takes away the darkness around the corners, and it's kind of hard to tell in this image, but it takes away distortion too, but can be a very useful tool. All right, let us move on. Whoops, hamburger person. It's not what we want. Or maybe it is, I don't know. Okay. Food photography. David Neville. Cool. Nice to have you on here. Your food photography is fantastic. I am not going to do it justice. I am not a food photographer, but I will do my best. Well, I'm not taking the picture. I'm just editing it. So, okay. So you asked for Superia. Let's go to Fujicolor Everyday, and there's Superia. And now I'm going to adjust exposure and temperature. Now, David is like a very precise food photographer, so I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for in a good food edit, because that is not my background. I like to eat food. I'm not a food photographer, so I'll just try to do my best. So there's exposure. I think I'm gonna straighten this out. Oh wait. Whoa, wait a minute. Let's see if auto transform will do it. Nope, definitely not. All right, I'm gonna just fix it myself just a little bit. Sometimes auto transform doesn't get it right. I'm just gonna get a little closer on the burger here. And then as far as temperature and tint goes, I feel like it's maybe lit with a continuous light. So like one of those video lights that you kind of hold off into the back. It's very pure white light compared to the background, which is like a tungsten light. So if I want to warm up this side of the burger, I mean, that's my inclination. It might make the rest too warm. I'm not sure. We'll see. That's not bad. Okay. Right about there. And then as far as it being too green or too magenta, I don't know where to look in this photo. Where is a neutral? I guess the plate? It looks a little green right here on the side of the bun. So let's try a little bit more magenta. This is a tough one. This is like one of the tougher images, this burger. Okay, that looks pretty good. Yes. David, I don't know if this lives up to your standards because you are a food photographer, but that is how I would edit this image. So thank you very much for sending it in. All right, this is Nick Scott. Nick sent in this really cool image. Like this is really I don't know. It's very Americana feeling, like kind of art. It's very artistic. It's an image that's interesting to me. I like the lines in it. I like that I'm getting interaction with the person in the front, and yet there's another person in the back kind of looking off to the side. So it feels like you're catching kind of a private moment, or like there's something happening. You're in the middle of a story. So I really like that. I like the little details, like the tattoos up here on her wrists, on her arm. So it's a very cool photo. So Nick, you wanted portrait pushed. Okay. That'll be good. It will make it feel kind of dark and moody. Um, so I'm going to suggest an alternative too. So if you want kind of a dark and moody vibe like this, and I think you can go that way with this image, I think it looks really good. So here's Portrait 160, push one stop. Here it is, push two stops. You're starting to get the red in the shadows, like especially like down in here. You're starting to really see it. So here's like pushed one stop and two stops. So you can see that red kind of coming into the shadows. That's like a really distinctive thing of Portrait 160, push two stops. Portrait 400 is a little bit cleaner. And 800 is, actually that looks pretty cool. I usually stay away from 800 push two stops because it's the most extreme. That looks pretty cool. Okay. All right. Well, all right, Nick, that's what I would, out of the portrait push, I would do 800 push two stops. I don't normally choose it because it is kind of extreme. The shadows go kind of a red purple, and the highlights can go a little bit yellow green, which by saying sounds terrible, but it looks really cool on this image. Let's see. I'm gonna soften up the contrast just a little bit. Maybe shadow soft. Yes. Okay, shadow soft. I'm digging this. That's a mood. That is for sure a mood right there. I love it. Actually, the more I look at it, the more I love it. Would I crop this? Is this breaking all the rules for me? Is it better 4:3? Maybe. It's a cool image. It's one of the cooler ones I've seen in a long time. All right, I love it. Let me do one more version of this. So I come from a kind of very low contrast, light and airy or neutral world. I dig that. That's so cool. Let's try one other type. So I see this as falling into the Fujicolor Everyday pack. So that plus a little bit cooler and a little bit darker. As far as like tint goes, that looks great. I don't really see any kind of tint issue. And then we're going to crop it 4:3 like we did the other one. I don't know why I didn't just keep it. So let's bring up both. All right. So Nick, we've got Portrait Push 800, two stops on the right, and then on the left we've got Superior 400. If this thing will render, I'm digging the Portrait Push, so I think it's fantastic. Very cool image. All right, thank you for sending it in. Appreciate it. Again, if you have any questions while I'm editing, please let me know, and I'm happy to answer them for you. Or we can hang out on Clubhouse right after. Okay, so Eli Epstein sent this in. There's no preset chosen, so I can just do whatever I want. This looks like maybe a kind of a company headshot. I can see that I think it's lit. Yes, there's like, I can see in his eyes, there's like a softbox camera or subject right and above. And for this kind of image, it's kind of high contrast. So this is with no preset. This is just exposure and contrast just to kind of see what I'm working with here. So seeing that it's kind of high contrast, I'm going to want to stick to film looks that are low contrast. Otherwise, it's just going to get kind of crazy pants, like way too contrasty. So I am going to do probably Portrait 160 from the Portrait Original pack. It's a nice kind of neutral base, and it's lower contrast. I'm going to increase the exposure quite a bit, maybe to about here. And then I'm going to work on temperature and tint. So I'm going to warm them up a little bit. And tint-wise, it's tough. His beard is going a little bit, like his hairline is going a little bit green maybe, but his skin is kind of red. I'm going to try going towards green, just see what happens. I've got some real kind of tricky images today, which is fantastic because that's real life. That looks pretty good. I'm going to do a few other things here real quick. I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. I'm going to get, this thing really bothers me, this kind of black area. So you can see if we can crop that out. And maybe get rid of that other little black bit over there. So I'm going to just assume this is a kind of a company headshot. And I think the proper cropping really helps. So now it's just, feels really clean, feels really easy to read. It's a nice portrait of him. Might increase exposure again just a tiny bit and use shadow soft. Again, I'm doing a lot of contrast control here because I don't believe there's a fill light on the other side of him. I think this is a one light situation, so there's a big, like, you know, octagonal soft light coming down, and there's a key light, but there's no fill light that I can determine. Maybe there's a small reflector, but I would maybe add a little bit more light in from the other side if it's meant to be a company headshot, just to kind of even out the exposure. But I think it's looking good, just by being careful with the preset you choose, like low contrast. And then working with a tone profile section, which in my mind, I think of it as like a contrast section, like contrast control is really kind of what it is. But anyway, comes from the film world. So I think that looks pretty good. There is before and after, and it's a nice headshot. Again, stick with the low contrast presets. All right, we only got a few minutes left here. You see, I think I'm really digging this image. So let's do it. This will be our last one. This is by, oh wait, yeah, okay. So this is by Katie Moom. Hope I'm saying that right. She requested Ektar, and this is just such a sweet moment. I love it. I love this photo. I loved it from seeing it really, really small, like in all the thumbnails, like on the big like contact sheet. So she requested Ektar, and that is in the Adventure Everyday pack, one of our most popular packs by a mile. That and Fuji Original, like they're like to the moon. Okay, so Ektar, it's going to be very colorful. It's our most colorful look of all time. So we'll do what we can with that. But I think we can get a nice edit with that. Exposure wise, maybe up just a little bit. I know you're probably looking and going, oh, that's getting really bright right here. Totally cool. We're going to deal with that in a second with a tone profile. As far as temperature goes, maybe I don't want to go any further down. If I go down, you're starting to see like the whites right here, like in the cloth, get really unnaturally cool, and we do not want that. I think the temperature is just right. Tint. Ektar is an orange-red forward film. It was actually never meant for people. People use it on portraits all the time, but it was really meant for landscapes. So really emphasizes red and orange. It looks great in a lot of photos. In an indoor setting like this, maybe it's a little bit too much, but we have a few tools that you would use in this case. So I'm going to stick with this as my basic 3-step edit, and then I'm going to add all soft. That took care of all the highlight shadow issues. Looks really nice. And then the last thing I'm going to do is use orange reduction. Look at that. That looks super duper, super nice. Love it. Okay. The other version I saw immediately is this is a perfect candidate for our are often forgotten but often lauded Ilford Original pack. It's just all about black and white. It's an amazing pack. This is a perfect example of when I would use it, and I would use Delta 3200, our massively grainy, like the most grainiest of grainy black and white films, but the grain is beautiful. And that's the other look that I immediately thought of when I saw this photo. I would just apply Delta 3200, bring the exposure up a bit, and you have just, it is just like beautiful. Like there's something so classic about it. Like if you were to print this image with this grain structure on like rag paper and sign it and put it up like in a house, it would be so good. So good. But it looks good in color too. It looks good either way. But there's just something about black and white on beautiful paper, like hand signed by the photographer, that is just like, it's like an artifact. It's just beautiful. So, all right. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's live edit. It's really fun to edit all these images. I love the community. I love everything that you guys are posting. It is super inspiring to all of us here, and frankly, we live for it. If you are watching this and you don't own anything that Mastin Labs makes, but you want to just learn more and be inspired, you are totally welcome to join the Mastin Labs community on Facebook. We just want to help you learn and succeed. That's all we care about. There's no bad questions. Also, if you have any questions for us, you can just DM us directly at m.me/Mastin Labs, and we will answer any questions you have. So great place to reach us. If you're seeing this on YouTube, be sure to hit the like and subscribe and the little bell button so you don't miss anything. We do this once a week, and every episode is just a treasure trove of editing information. So yeah, people seem to love it. So anyway, and then last but not least, we are going to be on Clubhouse after this edit session. We're going to see how it goes. We think Clubhouse is a great educational platform. So look for us there. And if you're on Clubhouse, you can find me under Kirk Mastin or at Mastin Labs on Clubhouse, on the Clubhouse. And soon it will be available for everyone on Android and everywhere else. And it's pretty fantastic. We've been enjoying it. So until next time, or actually until like in a few minutes, have a great day and happy editing.